Hello, everyone. Welcome to FFC&Me on Ful-On, your Fulham-centric football podcast. As you can see, I'm not actually at home this week. I'm actually away on a family holiday. But we are still working on creating a new series of FFC&Me. If you're interested in joining us as one of the fan interviews, wherever you are in the world, we want to hear your stories of why you support Fulham and to delve into what makes us a fan base that we all love and passionately adore our football club with. If you are interested, send us a message on Twitter. Or if you haven't gone Twitter, you can always email us at fulonfulham@gmail.com with the subject line FFC&Me. We put it out to vote for this week, and our episode that we've decided to release on your recommendations is our interview with Ben Taylor, aka the Magic Mod. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Ben. It was a great chat with him. He's a passionate Fulham fan, great guy, and I hope you guys enjoy. Until then, we'll see you soon. Hello, Ben. How you doing?
I'm very well, my friend. You?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, man. Not too bad. Just we'll jump straight in, mate. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, fuck me. How long you got, mate? Do you know what I mean? I'll be boring people if I told them everything. Fulham fan since I can remember, mate. Play with cards for a living. You know, been very fortunate enough to have been on some tours with some of the biggest names in the music industry. Again, very fortunate to have brought my art to TV as well. Brought out a documentary about being the Magic Mod in 2016, I think it was, man. And since then, everything's just really hit off. You know, I used to do a lot of stuff at Fulham as well, which when Kit was there, I used to go to the training ground and meet all the lads like McCormack and Dan Byrne and all that. And Grimmer was there. A lot of the boys used to do a lot of tricks with them, and I used to enjoy them days at Fulham. They were class, man. But I know you asked me a bit about myself. I'm going off the subject now, but it's just what I do. Trust me. But it's a bit about, you know, I mean, I don't really want to bore you, but I just love my music, love my style. I love Fulham Football Club. I think, you know, that's my drug, really. I mean, I get a bit too passionate with it. You know, like when I don't think there's such a thing, to be honest, mate. But I mean, people who've seen me, I've shed tears over Fulham. Do you know what I mean? Especially in the Europa League final, seeing that. It was more tears of joy than anything. But you know, a little old Fulham in the Europa League final. Who would have thought that, man? But who knows what's going to happen at the end of this season? You know, but to see my club in a final, and I mean, you know, Wembley as well. You know, when we've done the playoff final, you know, I mean, that for me was that's up there with one of the most amazing moments of my whole life, mate. And I mean, I've done some fucking brilliant things in my whole career, which I'm proud of. But to see Tom Kearney score that goal from a pass from Sessegnon, which was absolutely, it was like a knife through butter, wasn't it, man? Do you know what I mean? And so I've got a big passion for Fulham, and I'll probably end up boring a lot of people talking about them in this, but you.
Trust me, you won't bore people. The whole point of this is just, there's got to be more people like me who are just very interested in sort of other Fulham fans. You know, we're not a massive football club, so it's always interests me to why people come to love Fulham.
Yeah,
You know, and
brilliant.
I'm like yourself, massively passionate about the club. You know, most of my life has been sort of I build my life around football. You know, wife and kids, everything's done around like when football matches are and what's going on. So I get the complete passion. But Ben,
I
how long
was
have you do you remember how long you've been a Fulham fan? Do you remember how old you were when you first started like
yeah,
following football?
I was about 5 or 6, mate, when my old man took me to the cottage for the first time, and I was hooked on it. I mean, at that age, you can't really remember too much, and you're certainly not going to remember the actual day itself. But I remember going to the club shop and absolutely rinsing my dad's money. Ended up out there with like 2 football kits, home and away. The warm up jacket, a tracksuit, I had the lot, mate. I was buzzing. I couldn't wait to go to school on Monday wearing all this. Do you know what I mean? But I believe it was against Sunderland. You know, I may be wrong, but I've in the interviews I've done before, I've often said it was Sunderland. I think we ended up losing 1-0 or something like that. But for me, it weren't about the result. What it was just how close you are to the pitch. You know, you actually feel like you're part of it, and you don't get that with many grounds. I mean, you look at grounds like the Emirates now and West Ham's ground. You're so far away. You know, you need a pair of binoculars and a cab to get to the front of the pitch. You know, it's too far away for football's. There's not many grounds where you're really on top of it and you soak in an atmosphere. And I think the Cottage, not just saying it because I'm a Fulham fan, of course I'm going to be biased, but it's the best ground for me in the world, mate. And I don't care. You can have your Bernabeu's and Nou Camps and all that. The Craven Cottage is the best ground in the world. To be situated where it is, to have the lovely atmosphere. Not even that. It's what the surrounding. The lovely walk through Bishop's Park. On a lovely summer's day, I used to walk through there with probably a couple of cans. You know what I mean? But now that's all changed. There's
Yeah, yeah,
bottles of
yeah.
water. But it's it's a beautiful ground, mate. And most away fans always say that how coming to the Cottage is one of their favourite away days. I mean, it used to be because they took the piss and ended up getting 3 points. Do you know what I mean? But
would you say it was like the Cottage was like the first thing that sort of made you realise that this is that this is special? Fulham is special, or would
I
you say it
mean,
was just more the whole sort of getting to go with your dad
it was
and the whole thing?
going with my dad. I mean, I remember early on in my life when Fulham were doing well, especially when we had like Tigana and all that, and we had Keegan at one point. And I remember my dad coming through the door, like singing his heart out. He's obviously been down the last, been on the piss with the boys and all that, and he's coming home, and I've got to listen to all these Fulham songs. But I was loving it. I loved everything about it, man, and I couldn't wait to go. and as I said, I used to go with my dad all the time, mate. Loved it. That's one thing that I can't wait to do with my little boy is take him to Fulham. But it's like you can't. That's something, that special bond, going with your father to a football game, and I think that's what it was. Having the connection with my dad, that we both had the same passion for the club, and experiencing it with him was brilliant. And I remember being on his shoulders on the way to the game, and then standing on the seat. So it weren't seats then; it was just standing up. Sorry, but I remember like standing in front of him in the Hammersmith end, and then we used to sit in the Riverside as well. So many magical moments, and I'm glad I shared that with my dad, and hopefully there's going to be a lot more that I can share with not only my dad but bringing my little boys along as well.
Yeah, yeah, I completely understand. So for me, when I first started going to football, it was with my dad. But my mum and my dad got divorced when I was quite young, and my dad moved away. And luckily for me, I had an auntie who massive Fulham fan. Like she's been going since like the 50s. She
Fucking
sort
hell,
of took over taking me, and her passion for Fulham was like, unbound. Like no, I've never met anybody, literally no one, as passionate and as knowledgeable about Fulham as she was.
it's brilliant, man.
So
Love
I
that.
get that. I get that, and I love that. It's always interesting when I talk to people about when they first go to the game. They always remember where they sort of stood or where they sat or the
Mm.
experience of being there. And I remember, it's quite funny. You said that you don't really remember your first game because you were so young when you went, and I get that because I first went to games when I was literally a baby. I just get left in the pram at the front of the Hammersmith end. Like I don't remember. I can never answer what was your first game. All I can ever remember is sort of most of my memories of growing up at the Cottage weren't even necessarily the football. It was like
No,
just hanging out with my cousins and playing at the front of the Hammersmith end. When we used to get like 4,000 fans, and
oh
there
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
tons of rooms to run around. So I get that, and I think that you're right. It is special, and I'm lucky enough that I've got to just take my daughter to Fulham a few times now. She's 10,
Brilliant,
so she's starting to sort of grow that love for football. And I've taken her a few times. She's been a season ticket holder for a couple of years, but she doesn't really
brilliant.
come to every game. And I can't wait to take my son, but he's only 2, so he's a bit too young to come. But I'm looking forward to sort of getting to do that now. Um, Obviously, I know
When
you said
my
that you sort of go on, carry on, mate.
when my little boy was born, obviously Mitrovic was absolutely scoring goals for fun. And I said to the missus, look, I'm not being funny here, but when we register him, is there any chance I can get the name Mitrovic into his name? Do you know what I mean? Right. And anyway, we come to an agreement. So we got Alexander. So he's Lonnie, Alexander, Dancy, Taylor. So he's got Alexander in his middle name, and I'm quite
There's
happy
gonna be a
about that.
lot. There's going to be a lot of Alexander Fulham fans in about 10 years time, isn't there? I think that there's a spate of Fulham fans in the 90s with like the name Ivor. So I think
Yeah.
so. I think it's probably not that shocking, really. I wish
No, no.
my mum and dad were a bit more imaginative when they named me, but
I mean, I
unluckily,
did ask.
not for me.
I was thinking about calling him Dempsey, to be fair. I couldn't get away with that.
But no, just get a little cheeky Alexander in the middle name is absolutely fine, isn't it? That's absolutely fine. Obviously, you know that we all know you from being, you're a magician and you're sort of presenting
Right.
and stuff like that. Anyone who follows you on social media will sort of get to see you do your sort of weekly tricks you put out, and you're
That's
often,
it.
on tour with musicians and stuff like that. And as you say, you've done quite a lot of bits of going into the training ground and
Mm.
sort of being around the players and stuff. And I've seen you've
Yeah.
been on Soccer AM and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
find that sort of entertaining people with magic is and football sort of go hand in hand? Have you sort of used those experiences together, or are they just sort of
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
just
man.
sometimes they progress through it?
I used to take a deck of cards with me everywhere I went, right? And I used to go into the pubs at Fulham and on away days, and I always used to have a deck of cards. And I always used to see the same faces, and I used to love it. I mean, as we mentioned before we went live, the Charlton boat. I remember having a deck of cards there, and it is hard when everyone's buying you a drink. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I remember getting on the boat, and I think Sean Davis got me on fucking Sambucas at about 8:30 in the morning, wasn't it? What time did the boat was
Yeah, it
early,
was
wasn't it?
it
It was
was it was it was
ridiculous.
early. Yeah, it was early.
I remember walking up to the bar with him, and he's like, "Here we go, have some of it." I was thinking, "Fucking hell, it's only going to go downhill." But that was a great day. But I always got the deck of cards on me, and like, thankfully, I don't have to worry about that because I stopped drinking a long time ago. But it's they do go hand in hand, mate. And it's also like the music crowd, and the magician. I'm very lucky to bring all my loves, my passions together. I've done
Mm.
performed for my football club. I remember showing tricks to Clint Dempsey in the actual cottage balcony once. I got to know Steve Sidwell, sorry, really well, and what a lovely guy he is. And he managed to. He always used to get me tickets in the balcony. And I remember once someone took a photo and they thought it was Noel Gallagher in the balcony, and they were very disappointed when I told them it was me. But there you go.
I think you're exceptionally lucky to have seen games at the balcony. I think I've got a list of like bucket list things to do as a
Mm,
Fulham fan. I'm lucky that in the last sort of 5-6 years we've got to cut quite a lot of them off. See Fulham play in Europe, obviously checked off. See
yeah,
Fulham play at Wembley, win at Wembley. Take my kids to football was special. And go to as many away games as I have done and been lucky enough for that as well. But watching a game from the cottage is definitely up there. It was one of my dream things to do.
mate.
It's just because it's iconic, though, isn't it?
It's unbelievable, and I can't listen. I could tell you my experience, but you would never have the same experience as me. Everyone's
Mm.
everyone's experience is going to be different. Do you know what I mean? And it was just a magic moment. I remember so I got to return the favor. My dad taking me as a kid. I then got to take him into the cottage. Do you know what I mean? And it was amazing. And at half time, they have all the food out and stuff like that for the people to. It's normally like the girlfriends and the wives and stuff like that are all in there, and you have the odd. I mean, Mick Jagger was in there a couple of weeks ago, wasn't he? But I can't
Yeah.
think who was there when I was there. It was someone, I can't remember who it was. But yeah, I remember Dempsey just rocked up at half time, and he was supposed to have done this half time crossbar challenge or something, and it started pissing down. And he said, "Oh, do I want to do it?" I mean, I had a pair of desert boots on, and I went, "No chance, mate." Do you know what I mean? Not in these. But I remember introducing him to my dad, and he was such a gentleman. Clint Dempsey was such a gentleman to my dad, and I just thought, for me, that was a moment that I got to, sort of. Dad loved Dempsey. He thought he was amazing, especially after that goal against Juventus. And I got to introduce him at the cottage, and I thought that was a perfect moment. And I can't remember how many games I've seen up there, but there was quite a few, man. And it was always a special, special moment. And I was very lucky to have done that, and I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's definitely a really cool thing to say that you were now to do, and especially to take your dad as well.
Mm,
I can imagine
mm.
that being quite like a poignant moment, especially someone who, even if it's just like a thank you for introducing you to Fulham, as much as sometimes that's a punishment as it is a pleasure. Like
No,
that
it's a
that is
blessing and a
pretty cool.
curse, isn't it? It's a blessing and a curse. it was funny though, because like there weren't really many people drinking in there, because it was like the players who were injured and all that. And then you just see my dad in the corner with a curry and a glass of red wine. And I thought, yeah, then there was me on the San Miguel's. It was brilliant. Great moments though, honestly. And just a lovely club, mate. And the people, I must mention before you move on, the staff who were working there, I don't think it's the same staff as it was, but they were amazing. For the life of me, I can't remember their names, but every time I went in there, they remembered me. And I mean, you're not going to forget someone who dresses like he should be in the 60s and carries a deck of cards around, are you? Do you know what I mean? But they were lovely. And that's one thing I've always found about Fulham Football Club is the staff that they've had have been exceptional,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I started going to football sort of, early 90s. So there's an awful lot of staff members who are actually still at the club or have been around the club. So you sort of get to recognise an awful lot of faces, especially during like the early 90s, like mid to late 90s. The club was not necessarily in a healthy way. So, everyone used to do so much stuff that it's like you'd have to help but notice people. So you're right. Most of the people who work for the club are absolutely astonishing people. And I think that's part of the charm of a club like Fulham, is that you get some absolute solid gold people who work for the club as well as sort of represent, and you can't help but love that about it. We'll go back to yourself, like a bit personal. I know that you grew up in Sussex, right? So you're a Crawley boy. I think so. There's not many Fulham fans that live in Crawley. So what was that like, sort of growing up for you? Did you sort of love like the badge of like being a Fulham fan? Do you know many other Fulham fans that live in Crawley, or was it just part of the charm?
Man. I mean, you'll be shocked, right? But like all my dad's mates, there was a pub in Southgate called the Downsman, and the Fulham games that we couldn't go to, i.e. away games, that were on the TV. Always used to go and watch them there. Midweek games that we found out to go to, if it weren't at home, we'd go in there and watch it. And we used to have it's probably about 9 or 10 of us, not including my dad and me. And we honestly, we caused havoc in there. I remember. Do you remember when we played Watford? I think Diop was playing, and it was something stupid like, was it 3-3 or something? Remember that game?
4-4.
Watford.
It was the cup game. The 4-4. Yeah, the cup game. Yeah. When it snowed.
No, not that one.
No, the snow was the last time we played them.
No,
I definitely remember the 4-4 cup game. Or was it a league game?
This was league, because we had, I think, we had the shirt with, it was the black collar and white shirt. I tell you, we had Papa Diop playing for us. Wayne Routledge was playing for us. I think even Diop scored the last goal. We're going to have to check this, mate. But I'm sure it was either 3-3.
All right. Yeah, it was 3-3. Yeah.
3-3. Have you Googled it?
Yeah, I've just Googled it. Yeah.
Who scored the last goal?
Ashley Young scored a volley right at the end of the game, didn't he?
That's it. But we scored quite late, didn't we? Was it Diop who scored the last goal?
It was a Francis own goal it went down as, but Diop had the shot.
I think it was Diop. Right, there you go. And when that went in, we caused havoc in this pub. We just ended up, when I mean havoc, we didn't smash the gaff up, do you know what I mean? But we just ended up piling up on each other, and beers were going everywhere. Yeah. We went mental. And then before we know it, and I remember it, the goal that they scored to equalise was an absolute belter. But yeah, I remember when we played Wolfsburg away, and Bobby Samora done that turn on the edge of the box, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then bang it, mate. Points were going everywhere in that gaff, I tell you. And I think the landlord said, "Steady on, boys. I've just had this place decorated." We were like, "You might have to do it again in a minute, son." But that was unbelievable to see that. I mean, going back to that, what a player he was. We've been very lucky to have had some fantastic players at Fulham. I mean, that Europa League squad. I've got a signed photo of it in the other room, in my boys' room, of the team. And you look at some of them players, you think, like, unbelievable. Simon Davis, I used to love. I think he was brilliant. And what I thought was, what made me love him even more was that goal against Hamburg in the semi-final, because the way he did it, like if Messi did that, people would be talking about it for years. You know what I mean? But the fact that it's only Fulham fans who are really talking about it, that just sums it up, you know, because the way he controlled it and then done it, and then he got a kiss from Damien Duff at the end, didn't he? When he was laying on the floor, Duffy leant down and kissed him, and he was just in
he hurt
agony,
himself,
wasn't
didn't he?
he? That's what
He
I'm
hurt
saying. He was
himself,
on the
didn't
floor,
he?
didn't even
Yeah.
celebrate. But
Did he kick the Wolfsburg player as he sort of followed through with the
that's
shot,
it.
didn't he? Sort of flipped. Yeah. I was I was at that game, and I don't remember much. I don't
No.
remember much. I remember him scoring and going nuts, and then it's a blank from there. I've been drinking quite a lot, so it's like I don't remember much of it.
And then
But I do
Gira,
remember.
wasn't it? Sultan Gira scored
Yeah,
I remember. I loved his celebration. He was a player. I remember. I remember seeing him. He did a thing at half time. I went up to him and I just was like, "Oh, mate, love you. Thank you so much for what you done and all that." And he probably looked at me thinking, "Who's this geezer?" But you know, when you've had a beer and you see someone you used to love, you know, everything, all the
can't help
cards were
it.
on the table then, didn't they? Yeah. I remember seeing Moussa Dembele, who, in my opinion, is one of the greatest midfielders we've ever had, and so underrated. He was the way he glided past play. I'm talking about the Belgian one, not the Moussa Dembele the
Yeah, of course.
second. The way he glided past players, you were like, oh my god, this bloke's an absolute joke. I remember when we played Tottenham in the FA Cup, when he was warming up. And there's actually a video of me, and there's a few pictures, and someone put something like, "It's nice that Dembele stopped to take a selfie with a fan," right? And I remember grabbing him and went, "Dembele, loved you, mate." Kept kissing him, going, "Loved you, mate, loved you." And he was looking at the camera, and he was just a great sport. He was brilliant, mate. But it was my sister who sort of dared me. I was like, "I'm going to go over there," and I was bang on the Jack Daniels on that day, mate. I fucking can't remember getting home, but I remember seeing him, and I was like, "I'm just going to go up to him and get a selfie." She was like, "Go on then." I went, "Yeah, fuck it, why not?" And everyone was like, "Where's he going? Is he going on the pitch?" I just remember jumping, sort of like not jumping on the pitch, but like putting my arm around him and going, "Oh, it sounds
Over the
like
barrier.
yeah." But he was laughing his head off, and the video's great. Now and then, I think it's normally on his birthday or something. I normally reshare that just for a laugh because it's a great little moment. But I think they ended up beating us 3-0 or something on that day. I can't remember,
Yeah,
but
they
it
battered
was,
us
wasn't
that
it?
day. Yeah.
3, yeah.
Yeah, they battered us. I get that though about meeting your heroes, like especially like Fulham players you loved, because I felt that the first time I met Sean Davis.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
love Sean, absolutely love Sean because obviously I'm from Wandsworth, I'm from near
Yeah,
Clapham,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he's a Battersea boy, so he's
That's
from
it.
around my area, and he was at the club he played in every single division,
Mm.
scored that magical goal at Blackburn, scored that
Yeah.
goal at home to get to make us champions. So like, and he's just a nice guy, isn't he? Like,
I used to
I don't think I've ever met anyone who's not loved him.
no, he's beautiful, beautiful guy, great soul, beautiful soul. Sorry, when we used to what was the Three Musketeers? Used to have me, Barry, Rufus, and Sean used to go out after games sometimes. I remember the first time I met Sean was in might have been the Cohen Lounge or the Haynes Lounge, one of them, and I just said to him, "Listen, mate, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to do this." I remember reenacted his goal celebration against Blackburn, and my dad was looking at me, and Sean was like, "Oh my god, what a joke!" Do you know what I mean? I was like, "You got to teach me how to do it, mate. You got to teach me." He's like, "Come out with me later, and I'll teach you." And me and him were on this dance floor somewhere in Wimbledon, I think, both doing it, and just a great character, mate. I've got a lot of time for him. God bless him, man.
Yeah, yeah, no, he's a he's a nice guy, and he was a great footballer as well. So there's no sort of doubt in that.
No, man.
But Ben, we'll go through it. Like, there's a couple of things we saw. Obviously, like asking people when we go through this section of getting to know you.
Yeah, man.
One of the things I always like to ask is, uh, where is the weirdest place you've ever bumped into like another Fulham fan? Obviously, being a Fulham fan is we're not always the biggest club. So when you go there, and you've been around places, so I'm guessing you probably
Yeah.
been to some odd places where you bumped into people. Where I still get that little bit of excitement when I'm on holiday and I sort of see someone wearing a Fulham shirt walking down the beach.
I mean,
Like, so what's it like? Yeah, like, where would you say is the weirdest place you bumped into somebody?
it's not really a weird place, but like when I went to when we played Luton last game of the season, wasn't it? When we got it was Luton, wasn't it?
Yeah,
when we
yeah,
and
7-0. Yeah,
that's it. Fuck, I won't forget that. And I remember I saw this Fulham fan at Belfast station, Belfast Airport in the morning. I was like, oh wow! And we both had the same shirt on. I was like, for fuck's sake, because it was one of them retro ones, right? And he sort of
yeah,
gave me the nod. I think they got the flight to Stansted or something, and I was going to or Luton, one of them, yeah. And I was going to Gatwick, and sort of gave each other the nod. And then I saw the guy at half time. It was like, hey, we saw you at the airport earlier. You must have got changed. You had the same shirt on. And I was like, that was fucking bad accent that. But it's like I just remember seeing him and I thought that's so weird. And he was absolutely blocked at half time. He must have had a right skinful and all that. He actually gave me a scarf because the scarves that were left on the seats, I fucking hate it when people do this. They go around nicking other ones just because they want a freebie.
yeah.
It fucking winds me up that. But he was kind enough to give me his scarf. I think he actually had 3 of them. But
You
yeah,
probably
that
got
was
your original one, mate.
probably did, mate. But as I said, it wasn't really a weird place. It was just a weird sort of thing to see him and then see
Yeah,
him
no,
again at
I
half
get that.
time. Fans on like holiday and stuff like that. Like you said, you do meet other Fulham fans, and then you feel like the thing is with this club, it's not like your Manchester United, your Chelsea's, your Arsenal's, your Liverpool's, where there's fucking hundreds of them, but they've probably never been to a game in their life, right? They class a season ticket as the red button on a Sky remote. But there you go, say no more. But when you see a Fulham fan, like on holiday and that, you feel you've already got a connection because, as you said, we haven't got a
Yeah,
massive fan base. So you're like, oh, come over here. You know what I mean? And, we'll split the bill at the end. We'll talk, and you end up talking about the good old days.
yeah, yeah. I think the reason why I love talking about that is because you always hear some really interesting stories about sort of random places you bumped into people. Like I've had it
Yeah, yeah,
sort of walking through the middle of Amsterdam, like square, coming outside the train station and sort of bumping into somebody. And the thing is with me is that um, I talking about sort of going to games and bumping into people. I've been
yeah,
going to away games since I was proper young,
yeah.
right? And I don't get to go to them many these days because obviously having a family, it's really, really
That's
hard
it,
and stuff
mate.
like
Yeah,
that.
man.
But
Yeah,
try to get to as many as you can. But there's so many people at football that I wouldn't necessarily say like your mates, but you see them and you remember them or you sort of recognize them from growing up and seeing them around, and it's always nice to know that people are doing well and stuff. So I think one of the reasons why I love asking that question is because you always get a real sort of sense of what values people find in other Fulham fans when they sort of
yeah.
bump into people. And I think that's great. And I think that bumping into somebody at the airport and then sort of bumping into them at half time is exactly that, isn't it? It's like you get that sort of mutual connection when you first see each other, and then the second time you're having a conversation, and it's a conversation starter to say the least. Where I don't think 2 Man United fans would have that if they bumped into each other at Belfast Airport. You'd
No,
probably throw a coin in the air and hit 20 of them, wouldn't you? So
to be fair, mate, they wouldn't be in Belfast because most of their fan base is in London, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Well, sorry for sure. Yeah, there's definitely quite a few around me on the school run this morning.
Oh,
So.
oh, right.
Okay, last bit of this section, mate.
Go on, mate.
I always like to ask people, do you have any sort of lucky charms or superstitions around football? Anything you have to do on a match day?
Yeah. So I used to love wearing the old retro shirts. I used to collect all the shirts and all that. And if I went to a game and that shirt, if they lost while I was wearing that shirt, I wouldn't wear it again ever. Like I'm talking about ever. I wouldn't even look at it, mate. I used to just chuck it in the back of the wardrobe. So you can imagine, I've got quite a few fucking shirts. Some of them I've got like 5 or 6 of one t-shirt. Just no, I'm not saying I used to wear the shirts every game. Do you know what I mean? But if I went to a game wearing a shirt and we lost, I'd get sort of put that one in the back of the wardrobe and get another one because I was weird like that. I was very superstitious. Like the other day watching them, I didn't put the shirt on, but I put my little boy in his Fulham shirt because when he last wore his Fulham shirt, we won, and I thought, right, so me and him were watching it, but we ended up losing, so he's going to have to get a new shirt now. So yeah,
That's
that.
cool. So I have a similar superstition. I won't wear football shirts. I've never worn football shirts to matches. I did it one time when I was a kid, and we lost the game like 5-0, and I was just like, I'm not doing this ever again. So I just
I
refused to. Like, so I've not worn a football shirt to a game since I was like 7,
Oh,
and I just like I refuse to. I might wear a hat
yeah,
or
yeah.
something like a scarf, but will not wear a shirt. So I get that. The top threes now. For anyone who's sort of watching this for the first time who doesn't know what the top three sections are, this is all your personal choice.
Go on, mate.
So there's no right or wrong answers. There's no right or wrong answers. It's all about that section and what's important to you. You can pick for the goals. Could this be because they were really important goals for you to see, or because they were absolute worldies? For the kits, it could be because you know we played amazing football in them, or you just like the way
Yeah,
they look.
yeah,
Games and memories are the exact same. So there are no right
yeah,
or wrong
man.
answers to this section. Okay, so
Go
we'll
on,
move on
mate.
to your first question. What are your top three favorite Fulham goals?
Mate, one of my favourite goals I've ever seen was at the Riverside Monday night playing Middlesbrough. Collins John, and at such an acute angle, chest volley, right? And I think, if my memory serves me right, I think it was Nicholas Jensen with the throw in. I might be right, and he just chested it, and the way he turned. I remember seeing him in Oxford Street once, and I spoke to him and just went, "Mate, you've scored one of the best goals we've fucking seen in my life." Because it was literally like just such a beautiful goal. And then when I got home and watched it on the TV, and you saw the angle, you thought, "Oh my god, unbelievable!" So that one, Collins John. These are going to be some really weird ones, but it's goals that, I mean, as I said, I saw some crackers in the '90s and all that. You know, I mean, the goal against Carlisle and all that. Fucking Davis, Blackburn. You know, so many goals, but these are goals that, when I read the question, really stood out for me. Diamartey Kamara against Tottenham, the overhead kick. Now that was just stupid, because he didn't really hit the ground running for us. And after that goal, we thought, right, he's going to be like the Messiah now and start banging in more. But he didn't. He had a good little celebration though, didn't he? But I remember after that goal, I went and bought that shirt and got his name on the back of the kit. I thought that goal was unbelievable, just ridiculous as well. I think, weren't we at 1 point 3-1 down, and we ended up getting.
It was 3-3. Yeah,
Was
it
it
was the last of it as well.
Alexei Smirtin as well? I think he had a shot which took a massive deflection and went over Robinson, and then because we had a few 3-3 games in that season, and he was similar. He was involved in quite a few of the goals, but that goal from Kamara, ridiculous, when it vaults with the throw or something, and then it's gone out, and it's one of the best bicycle kicks I've ever seen, mate. And for the last one, it's got to be Papa Boupa Diop against Man United, because that was just absolutely fucking ridiculous. I mean, I could mention, I remember being at a ground share. I'm not going to say it, but John Harley, do you remember that goal against Aston Villa?
Yeah.
I mean, geezer's hit it from the fucking car park and it's gone in. Do you know what I mean? P.A. Womey, you remember the goal he scored against West Brom, was it? Free kick.
Yeah.
Again at Loftus Road. Mate, Sylvan Legwinski, the goal he scored against Tottenham in off the bar. And he done one similar against Newcastle as well, didn't he? He was
just smacked it, didn't he? Yeah.
Absolutely twatted it, and then stuck his Zorro mask on. No, that was for Kundu Sava. He used to put the mask on, didn't he? He was a great little player. I liked him. We've had some great characters at the club, mate. Legwinski, I used to love that. I thought he was brilliant, Legwinski. But going back to it, my number one goal, mate, would probably be, it's got to be Papa Diop, mate, because do you know what? No, I'm going to change that now. So I'm going to knock Kamara out. Not literally, but I'm going to knock his goal out and put I'm going to put Diop's second, and the first one I'm going to have Simon Davis against Atletico Madrid in the final, because I was just thinking about it, and it was just ridiculous. And he actually had a shot similar about 5 minutes before, didn't he? Something like that, where the ball's laid to him and he's had a similar little thing, but that was just fucking ridiculous, that goal. And it weren't just the goal, it was the whole occasion, to do it in a final, the atmosphere, stand up if you still believe, like all of that, mate. And so that's it. Let's quickly move on, though, because I'm going to end up changing it again.
Yeah, we will, mate. We will. Let's move on to your top three favorite kits. And I know you're proper into your fashion and stuff, so I'm expecting
I like that.
some kits picked on looks rather than what we look like playing in them. So
Yeah,
give us your top three kits.
I loved the sky blue, the first sky blue one we had when we went to Newcastle away and dicked them 4-1, and Mark Crossley ended up getting about 6 shots, saved it with his face, didn't he? Do you remember that sky blue kit was stunning, beautiful. I remember the advert in it.
The Puma one.
Yeah, I remember the advert in it, and it was Balmorte was advertising it. I just thought that looks unreal. I think you got a free Puma ball with it as well. Well, I certainly did. Don't know if my dad paid extra, but whatever. But fuck knows. But I remember that. I also absolutely loved the one Puma again, all white, and the black collar, going down the sleeve. That was just such a cool kit, absolutely cool kit. And I see a lot of people say, "Who do you remember of this kit?" And for me, it had to be the wardrobe. You know, that was a beautiful kit,
course,
and what a man mountain as well. And my first favourite kit, I liked the lime green one with the old crest, the old badge on it. I thought that was.
I did that. The weight, it was at 98.
Yeah, 90. Yeah, when we had, I think, the players like your Pesky Solido and all that. I remember him wearing it, and I mean, fuck me, I'll go for the whole squad of them wearing it. But I mean, when I think of that kit, he's someone who I think of. What a player he was as well. But that kit was just beautiful, lime green. It wasn't everyone's cup of tea, do you know what I mean? But it was a beautiful
I loved it.
kit.
It's in my top three too, mate. I love that line kit. I absolutely love that kit. What I love most about it was it was a bit shiny, that kit.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I remember I used to play football quite regularly, sort of in my nan's estate, and everyone else would sort of be wearing like their Arsenal kits and the Man United kits, and I'd bomb down in me lime green Fulham shirt with Paul Pesky-Slido on the back of it, and
what player.
everyone loved it. I do it, mate. Absolutely, it's one of my absolute heroes as a Fulham fan. He would be, if I enter someone into the Cult Hero Hall of Fame, he would be my entrant, because I loved him. And it
played in a couple of the charity games at the cottage, and he was on my side once. No, I played against him in the first game, and I think maybe he was there, or maybe no, he was there the second time as well. And you know what? He's just still got a bit like he's just. A lot of them have though. I remember in the first charity game I played in, Balmorte, he actually did this ridiculous bit of skill and then passed me the ball. And I was so amazed by what he did, right? The ball just went straight across me. And he was like, "Hey," like that. And I was like, "Mate, what you just did was absolutely ridiculous." Like I don't know what he did. Like he sort of he nutmegged some geezer from some reality TV shit or something. It just made him look an absolute mug, right? And then got the ball and passed to me, but he did like a no look pass. And I was like, oh my god, that I just let the ball run across me. I mean, and he looked at me and he couldn't help but laugh. I remember speaking to him about that after. I remember funny story. My first when I first come on, I was on the subs bench. And then I come on in the first game I played. Didn't score, but I scored in the second one. That was an amazing feeling, scoring at the cottage. But my first touch of the ball, right, was a 50-50 with Lewis Sahar. and I thought, I can't go for this. And then I thought, but imagine if I actually win the ball, right? And I managed, there's a photo, right? There's a photo of me putting my arm in front of him. And it looks like I've just got the ball. And I'm like, that'll do. I'm getting that on a canvas. Do you know what I mean? But in reality, I toe poked the ball away from him. And then he sort of like, yeah, not today, kid. Do you know what I mean? And he absolutely barged me off it. But thank fuck no one's got a photo of that. But the photo, I'll try and find it and send it to you. It's it was
I think I've seen it actually. I think
in the red, he had the red and white kit,
yeah.
And he had the blue. He's such a unit though, but it looks like, I mean, he's proper like not even breaking a sweat, and I'm like proper pulling a Phil Jones face, going, "No, I'm having a bit of that."
That's fine, mate. Keep that, because you just when you start telling your son about the games and how good Louis Sahar was, you can be but
Mate,
Look at this picture. Look at this.
unbelievable. I know, mate. Tell me about it. His room's like a fucking museum. Have you ever seen the episode in Alan Partridge where the geezer takes Alan into the room, turns the light on, and there's all these pictures of him?
Of him.
That's what his room looks like, but they're pictures of me.
Oh, mate. Gotta have heroes, so it's fine. I think go for your choices of kits.
Yeah,
As I
mate.
say, that lime green kit, absolutely love it.
Yeah,
That Puma one shoulder black shirt is I think it's probably the most selected one I've had so far. I think it's one of those kits that it looked great and we play some really decent football in it, so I think that helps as well. And the sky blue Puma kit is the only blue football shirt I've ever bought. It's the only blue football shirt I've ever bought. And it's just because it just looked so good. And I remember the advert you're talking about, the one with Louis Barmore.
He was like flicking the ball up, wasn't he? Beautiful.
Yeah,
I think I had that on my wall.
Absolutely love that. But love that kit. And I think it helps that the first game we wore it in was that Newcastle game where we absolutely spanked them.
I know, right?
So I think that helps too. But they're definitely really good choices for top three kits. We'll move on to the next one, mate. What are your top three favorite games?
We ended up losing, but Blackburn 4, Fulham 3 at it's going to sound stupid, but I just loved. But I should have said about goals. Remember, Barmore just kept running and running, and then ended up scoring, and then there's the little dance by the corner flag. I know like I said, we lost 4-3, but I just something about that game for me really stood in my memory. As I said, it was probably Bower's goal, but that game's really stood out in me. And when I read the question, I thought, well, I'm going to chuck that in there. My second one, I mean, you can't look any further. The obvious ones are your Hamburgs, Juventus, but again, a Bauer one, beating Chelsea, first time we beat them in a long time at the Cottage, and scenes at the end, but just that goal. Let me change that, mate. I'm going to put the Fulham Chelsea 1-0 as my third. My second one is when we went to Old Trafford and beat them 3-1 with Intermoto. Mate. And my first one is Blackburn away, because I still relive that goal. It was absolutely ridiculous. And it's just the whole build-up about the goal, and who we were playing and everything. And and how much was riding on the winner and all that. And for us to do what we did, at that time was ridiculous, mate. So I'm going to put Blackburn away. Verse number one.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant choices. I think that it's really hard. The top three games is always the hardest one for me to choose. Like kits is easy because it's personal preference, goals is personal preference, but games I could list hundreds of games that I've been to.
Yeah, same.
Absolutely amazing. Like,
you could ask me this question tomorrow, mate, and the answer would be totally different. Yeah, of course it will, man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I get that too, and I think that one of the things that I always find quite amazing when I think about games is that I don't necessarily remember scorelines of games that I've been to, but I remember feelings from games that I've been to. So, I remember when we got relegated at Stoke, and
oh fuck yeah.
I remember crying on the way out of the ground, and I remember I was there with my little brother. I say little, he was like 12, bawling my eyes out, and he's like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "No, I'm not." Like, it was terrible. Like, and I remember but then I remember like joyous games. I don't know if you remember when talking about Blackburn away, when Jimmy Bullard had just come back from his knee injury,
scored the free kick.
He scored a free kick like last minute to make it 2-1.
Yeah, ridiculous goal.
And I broke about 6 seats around me in the away end. Not through trying to be like that.
Just got bowled over.
Just, mate, I went 3 rows. 3 rows. And I think it's one of those things that it's memories of stuff like that you got to love about games. So I think that it's why I always love asking people like their top 3 games. We'll move on to the next one, mate. It's your last top 3, which is your favorite moments and memories. Again, these don't have to be match based. They can be sort of just experiences around the club. But what are your top 3 favorite moments?
Top three. My third one probably going to my first ever Fulham game with my dad. The second one going to Wembley with my dad again. Aston Villa. When that goal went in, I ended up collapsing. I think I broke a seat that day because I ended up standing up on one and I sort of slipped back. Next thing you know, the seat's on the fucking floor, and I'm like, shall I take it home for a souvenir? I ended up leaving it there. And then the last one, or the first one, sorry, is beating Brentford because of, no one could go to the game, but it was watching it in a pub with everyone and just beating them, mate, fucking on their biggest day, beating them the way we did with Serge O'Brien scoring 2 fantastic goals, build that geezer a statue after he did that, mate, So, yeah, Brentford playoff final, mate.
Yeah, I think especially the Brentford game, because we were still in lockdown, but we were starting to come out of the restrictions and stuff. So it was the first time I managed to have a couple of my cousins around my house to come watch the game. So it was the first experience of watching football with people that actually cared for about, a year and a half. So yeah, I definitely agree that those moments are great. And I think Wembley, like everyone's dream of being a Fulham fan is obviously to watch playing win at Wembley. So I agree with that too. We'll move on to the last section, buddy. Just the last thing we're going to do, which is obviously your entry into the FFC&Me Cult Hero Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Give us your nomination, mate.
I'm going to go with the Belfast boy, George Best, right? I could also say so many more names, obviously, people who, you can say Alexander Mitrovic for what he did last season, some other cult classics. Boa Louis Sahar, Steed Malbronk, Edwin van der Sar, Mike Taylor, David Elm, Chef Shikuchi. No, it's got to be George Best, isn't it? Because he was like a rock and roll star. He was an absolute icon, style, fashion icon. He was like the playboy, wasn't he? Do you know what I mean? He had the lot. And I think one of the best quotes was something like, if I had to choose between scoring an FA Cup final goal or shagging Miss World, it would be hard. But lucky for me, I've done them both. And you're thinking, what a quote that is. Do you know what I mean? But he just had it all, and through to addiction, which is another subject. He ended up, losing it all, really, didn't he? But what a player! Obviously, I never saw him. Sorry, but you see the videos on YouTube, and the thing is, look at the pitches they're playing on, and to do what he did. I've got to know Rodney Marsh really well from the times I did at Fulham, and I remember speaking to him. And there's a game I think we played Hereford, and it's on YouTube. And George Best took it past about 3 players, and then it got to the point where Rodney Marsh tried to tackle him, and he still couldn't get the ball off him, and they were on the same side. Now you imagine someone doing that today, just wouldn't happen. But real characters of the game, mate. And I'm going to say George Best.
I will never argue with George Best being put into anyone's cult here, anyone's Hall of Fame, because he's an absolute legend of the game, not just at Fulham. I know we didn't get his best years, but we got some absolutely amazing ones, and I think he's probably can be attributed to saving the club quite a bit, just through the amount of people he brought through the door. So like I absolutely, again, never ever saw him play. He's well before.
Yeah, both of us, mate. Yeah,
but I've been told many stories of George Best playing for Fulham. So just for that alone, that's what a cult hero is, isn't it? It's a hero. So
100%, man.
I agree with that, mate. So he's in. So Ben, thanks very much for spending time with me and having a little chat, learning a bit about yourself as a Fulham fan.
More than welcome, mate.
Anyone who's sort of watching this who doesn't follow Ben on social media, give him a follow, because he's definitely interested in sort of following. And if you love a bit of magic, he often pops up with quite a bit of a mind bender on a Monday. So
I love that. Thank you, my friend.
We'll that, mate. No, thanks very much for coming on, mate.
More than welcome, my friend. Mate, it's been a pleasure.